66 million years ago, the world was ruled by monsters. These were not monsters from movies, but real animals with teeth like knives, claws like scythes, and eyes made for hunting. Some hunters went in groups, some ruled by themselves. Different people had different ways of cutting bone clean. These weren't just dinosaurs, they were the best tools that nature had ever made. These are the scariest dinosaurs ever found. They include giants that lived in rivers and birds that looked like both animals and birds. They turned prehistoric times into fear fuel. Tyrannosaurus Rex, the bone crusher king. In the history of the Earth, not many animals have lived up to their name, as well as the Tyrannosaurus Rex. It was more than just a hunter. It was nature's ultimate power. It was over 12 meters long, weighed up to 9 tons, and had a head that was almost as long as a person. Everything about this animal was made to make it dominant. Its big head, strong legs, sharp senses, and most famously, a bite that can break bones like chalk. That bite was its defining weapon. Using high-resolution models and fossil evidence, scientists have estimated that T-Rex could deliver over 8 tons of pressure per square inch, the strongest bite ever recorded in any land animal. To put that in perspective, it could bite through a car door or turn the pelvis of a triceratops into splinters. Unlike most predators that slice meat, T-Rex pulverized it. Its teeth weren't knife-like, but thick and serrated, built to crush and tear at the same time. Paleontologists have even found fossils of other dinosaurs with T-Rex tooth marks showing deep punctures, proof that it didn't just kill, it dismantled. Despite its terrifying strength, T-Rex wasn't just a mindless brute. Its skull was a masterpiece of evolution, lightweight yet durable, with air pockets that reduced weight without sacrificing strength. Its jaw muscles attached deep inside the skull, giving it tremendous leverage for its bite. Recent CT scans of its brain case also reveal a surprising truth. T-Rex had an exceptionally large olfactory bulb, meaning it had one of the best senses of smell of any known animal. It could track carcasses or living prey from miles away, sniffing out victims hidden deep in forests or across open plains. And then there were its eyes, forward-facing, giving it true depth perception. Unlike reptiles that rely on motion, T-Rex could judge distance, focus, and track movement with accuracy. Combined with a long stride that could cover several meters in one step, it wasn't slow. The myth of a lumbering giant has faded. New muscle reconstruction show it could run short bursts of up to 25 kilometers per hour, fast enough to overtake most herbivores of its time. But T-Rex wasn't just fearsome because of how strong it was. It was also scary because of how it used its strength. There is proof of both hunting and scavenging at fossil sites in Montana and South Dakota. T-Rex was quick to pick a fight. Because it smelled food, it didn't care if its prey was alive or dead. Some paleontologists think that its loud roar and huge size may have scared smaller predators away from dead animals. It didn't just kill for food, it also stole, snatched, and ruled. It's also fascinating that fossils show T-Rex may have lived and hunted with its family. Trackways and bone beds show that young animals and adults may have worked together to catch food. Taking advantage of the differences in size, younger T-Rex were faster and more flexible, which made them great for chasing food into the path of the adults. If that's true, it would make it one of the smartest and most powerful animals ever. Even in death, T-Rex remains extraordinary. Paleontologists studying its bones under microscopes have found signs of fast growth, showing that it reached its full size in just 20 years, one of the fastest growth rates known in any large animal. It lived fast, grew fast, and likely died young. Its lifespan rarely exceeded 30 years, yet in that short time, it shaped the ecosystems around it. One fossil, nicknamed Sioux, discovered in South Dakota, remains the most complete T-Rex ever found. Sioux's skeleton shows healed injuries, broken ribs, infected jawbones, and massive scars. This wasn't an easy life. T-Rex fought others of its kind, hunted horned dinosaurs like Triceratops, and survived brutal wounds. Its resilience adds another layer to its legend. Even the king of dinosaurs bore the marks of its own violent world. Spinosaurus Aegyptiacus, the river monster. Before Tyrannosaurus Rex came along, there was another huge animal that changed the definition of scary. What was its name? Spinosaurus Aegyptiacus, and it ruled the ocean, not the fields like any other predator before or after it. Imagine a monster that is longer than a city bus, almost 16 meters from nose to tail. It would have crocodile lips full of sharp teeth, a sail on its back, and legs made for swimming, not running. This wasn't a land-based killer, it was a river monster. It was the first real dinosaur that lived in water, and it may have been the scariest one ever found. The story of Spinosaurus begins in Egypt in 1912, when German paleontologist Ernst Stromer discovered its bones in the Sahara Desert. What he found didn't match any known dinosaur: a long snout like a crocodile, huge conical teeth, and mysterious vertebrae with spines over a meter tall. Stromer knew it was something new, something extraordinary. But fate struck. During World War II, the only known Spinosaurus fossils were destroyed in a bombing raid on Munich. For decades, the creature existed only in drawings and speculation, a lost legend of the fossil record. Then, in the early 2000s and again in 2014, new fossils from Morocco brought Spinosaurus back to life. And what scientists uncovered was even stranger than anyone had imagined. Unlike the T-Rex, its legs were short and stocky, its body elongated, and its tail long and flexible, built like a giant paddle. The tail alone could sweep through the water like an oar, propelling the animal forward with surprising grace tests on the bone. Density revealed something shocking. Spinosaurus had bones as solid as a hippo's, perfectly adapted for buoyancy control underwater. Its skull was another masterpiece of evolution. Over a meter long, with narrow jaws lined by over 60 conical teeth, it was designed to grab slippery prey like fish and aquatic reptiles. It even had pressure sensors in its snout, like modern crocodiles, allowing it to detect ripples and vibrations in the water, meaning it could hunt even when visibility was poor. Fossil evidence from its Moroccan river delta home shows that Spinosaurus lived among massive fish, such as Onchopristis, a sawfish over 8 meters long. In this ecosystem, Spinosaurus wasn't a scavenger, it was the top predator, the river's executioner. Its sail, which was made up of long spines that rose from its back and formed a fan-like top that could be over 2 meters high, was of course what made it stand out. Scientists are still not sure what it's for. Some people think it was used to keep the body at the right temperature by soaking heat during the day and letting it out at night. Some people think it was a display building, a way to scare off competitors or draw mates. Some paleontologists think it may have worked like a fin to help the animal stay steady while it swam. No matter what it was used for, Spinosaurus was one of the most beautiful killers that ever lived. But Spinosaurus wasn't invincible. Its adaptations for water meant it struggled on land. Its hind legs were too short to support its massive frame for long distances, and its hips were built for paddling, not running. It likely moved clumsily on shore, dragging itself in and out of the riverbanks. That didn't make it less deadly, only more specialized. It hunted in the murky shallows where few other dinosaurs dared to go, ambushing prey from below like a reptilian crocodile. New discoveries in recent years have painted an even more complete picture. In 2020, paleontologists uncovered a nearly complete Spinosaurus tail in Morocco, confirming once and for all that it was a strong swimmer. Computer models and robotic tail tests showed it could undulate its tail with the power and precision of a modern alligator. It was the first non-avian dinosaur truly adapted to an aquatic lifestyle. Giganotosaurus Carolinii, the southern giant. A new top predator arose in the open plains of what is now Patagonia, Argentina. It was so big that it challenged Tyrannosaurus Rex as the biggest land animal that ate meat. It was known as Giganotosaurus Carolinii, which means giant southern lizard. It wasn't just huge, it was enormous. It was one of the biggest land killers ever found. It was over 13 meters long and weighed about 8 tons. But the Giganotosaurus wasn't just scary because it was big. It was also fast, worked well with others, and had very sharp teeth that cut meat into strips. The discovery came in 1993 when a car mechanic and fossil enthusiast named Ruben Carolinii stumbled upon a massive thigh bone sticking out of the Patagonian dirt. What paleontologists later uncovered from that site would rewrite everything they knew about South American dinosaurs. This wasn't another T-Rex clone. This was something older, sleeker, and built for a different kind of hunt. Giganotosaurus belonged to a family of theropods known as Carcharodontosaurids, or shark-toothed lizards. True to its name, its teeth were long, flat, and serrated like steak knives, designed to slice through flesh, not crush bone. Unlike T-Rex, which relied on brute force, Giganotosaurus killed with precision. It would slash its prey open, inflicting deep, bleeding wounds, then follow until its victim collapsed from blood loss. It didn't need to crush, it simply let its prey die on its own. Its skull was enormous, about 1.6 meters long, longer than most people are tall, but lighter than T-Rex's thanks to thin bones and hollow spaces. This design made its head faster, giving it a quick snapping bite rather than a bone-crushing one. Its arms were more developed too, with strong claws that could grip or slash, and its legs were long and muscular, suggesting it could run at speeds up to 50 kilometers per hour for short bursts. A shocking feat for something that weighed more than an elephant. The real scary thing about Giganotosaurus might have been the way it hunted. Fossils found nearby, including bone beds with more than one person's bones, show that these animals may have hunted in groups. Think about a group of 40-foot-long hunters working together to kill a single, huge omnivore. What are they likely to catch? Being 35 meters long and 70 tons heavy, the Argentinosaurus was one of the biggest animals that ever lived on Earth. One Giganotosaurus by itself couldn't kill it, but a group of them could by cutting at its legs and sides until it fell. New studies of their brain cases also show that Giganotosaurus had very good senses and advanced balance. It had big olfactory bulbs, which are parts of the brain that help us smell. This allowed it to follow its food over long distances. The shape of its inner ear suggests that it was tuned to low-frequency sounds, which may have helped it talk to other animals of the same kind. It wasn't a crude animal, it was a smart, social killer. Life in the late Cretaceous of South America was brutal. The landscape was hot and dry, dotted with rivers and sparse forests. Herbivores were massive, armored and slow. The perfect targets for ambush fossilized footprints show that Giganotosaurus and its relatives ruled this ecosystem for millions of years, long before T-Rex evolved in North America. They were the undisputed apex predators of the Southern Hemisphere, the kings of Gondwana. The captivating aspect about Giganotosaurus is how its find changed how experts thought about T-Rex. Tyrannosaurus had been the standard picture of a fierce dinosaur for many years, showing it to be the best killer. But when Giganotosaurus showed up, it told paleontologists that the perfect killer had evolved in many forms on different continents. In the south, there was a Giganotosaurus, and in the north, there was T-Rex. Two animals that came from different families but have the same traits. They are fast, smart, and have teeth that are made to destroy. Utahraptor Ostrommaysorum, the real raptor nightmare. Before raptors became famous in movies and TV shows, the real monster was buried in Utah's red rocks. Utahraptor Ostrommaysorum wasn't the small turkey-sized velociraptor from the movies. It was a predator the size of a polar bear, with claws that looked like scythes and were longer than a human hand. It was designed to kill in an organized, smart way. When it came to raw power, the Tyrannosaurus Rex was the Utahraptor. It was a killer that could move like lightning, think like a wolf, and strike like a blade. Discovered in 1991 in the Cedar Mountain Formation of eastern Utah, Utahraptor instantly rewrote everything scientists thought they knew about dromaeosaurs, the raptor family. At nearly 7 meters long and weighing close to half a ton, it was the largest raptor ever found. Its sickle-shaped claws, nearly 9 inches long, were its signature weapons. Unlike straight claws made for gripping, these were curved and razor-sharp, perfect for slashing deep into flesh. Each one could open a wound that bled a creature to death in minutes. Its build was a contradiction, heavy and muscular, yet agile. Strong legs powered its leaps, and its long, stiff tail acted like a counterbalance, allowing sharp turns mid-run. The animal's entire skeleton shows an obsession with speed and stability. Every bone, every joint, was designed for explosive movement. Its arms were long and flexible, ending in hands with curved claws that could grip and tear. And unlike many predators of its time, Utahraptor had a brain that matched its body. Large, complex, and suited for coordination. Fossil discoveries suggest it may not have hunted alone. In 2014, paleontologists uncovered a block of sandstone containing at least 6 Utahraptors of different ages preserved together. The bones were jumbled, but the evidence hinted at a possible family or pack. If true, this was one of evolution's earliest examples of cooperative hunting. Predators working together, combining intelligence and force to overwhelm prey. Imagine 6 half-ton raptors attacking from multiple sides, moving in unison like wolves, fast, silent, and merciless. Their prey likely included iguanodonts, bulky plant eaters that roamed the same region. Tracks from the same area show herds of these dinosaurs moving in groups, possibly for protection. But even in herds, they stood little chance against Utahraptor packs. With speed, claws, and strategy, these predators could target the weak, separating one animal from the group and striking before it could escape. Once downed, the pack would descend in a flurry of feathers and blood. Yes, feathers, because Utahraptor wasn't a scaly monster, even though it was very big and scary. Its feathers were likely covered in a layer of down and quills, as shown by fossils and comparisons with smaller relatives. These feathers weren't used for flight, they were used for warmth and show, which could have been a sign of age or power. In the early Cretaceous sun, it would have looked like a giant feathered hunter with bent claws and smart eyes. It would have also looked a lot like a bird. Its intelligence was one of its greatest weapons. Brain endocasts, reconstructions from fossilized skulls, show a well-developed cerebrum and optic lobes, suggesting sharp eyesight and quick reflexes. It could see depth, detect motion instantly, and likely plan attacks rather than relying solely on instinct. This cognitive leap, combined with physical power, made Utahraptor one of the deadliest hunters in Earth's history. In combat, it likely used its claws like grappling hooks. Once it leapt onto its prey, the claws would anchor into flesh, while its arms pulled it closer. Its jaws, lined with serrated teeth, would deliver tearing bites. The combination of speed, balance, and weaponry meant it could bring down animals much larger than itself. Few predators, before or after, could match its efficiency. Paleontologists often call Utahraptor the ultimate raptor, because it represents the peak of its lineage. It combined the brain of a smaller raptor with the size and power of a large carnivore. In an age before T-Rex, it ruled its environment as one of the most advanced killers ever evolved. Carcharodontosaurus Saharicus, the shark-toothed hunter. There were rivers, plants, and giants in the Sahara long before it turned into a sea of sand. The shark-toothed lizard, Carcharodontosaurus Saharicus, walked among them. It was one of the scariest hunts that had ever lived. Its name wasn't just a beautiful pun. It had huge, serrated and recurved teeth like a great white shark's, and they cut through skin with scary accuracy. This monster ruled the Cretaceous sands of North Africa with cold efficiency. It was almost 13 meters long and weighed close to 7 tons. Its jaws were strong enough to cut muscle into ribbons. Discovered in the 1920s by German paleontologist Ernst Stromer, Carcharodontosaurus was originally thought to be a relative of Allosaurus, until later studies revealed something far more advanced. Unfortunately, Stromer's fossils were destroyed during World War II, much like those of Spinosaurus. For decades, the creature remained a legend. Then, in the 1990s, new fossils emerged from Morocco and Niger, and suddenly, the land shark had a face again, and it was more terrifying than anyone imagined. Its skull alone was over 1.6 meters long, rivaling that of T-Rex. But while T-Rex bit down with crushing force, Carcharodontosaurus used its head like a bladed weapon. Its jaw muscles were built for quick, slashing strikes rather than bone-breaking power. Its teeth, some over 8 inches long, acted like steak knives serrated on both edges. When it bit, it didn't kill immediately. It wounded deeply, letting its prey bleed out. Every attack was surgical, every movement calculated. The world it lived in wasn't a peaceful haven. During the Middle Cretaceous, North Africa was a war zone for predators. The land was full of huge animals. It lived in the same area as Spinosaurus, Baryonyx, and big alligators like Sarcosuchus. These monsters didn't stay away from each other. They were always fighting over food. It wasn't about being the biggest to stay alive. It was about being the best and fastest killer. Carcharodontosaurus changed by turning into both. What truly set it apart was its anatomy's focus on precision. The jaw joint allowed wide, slicing bites. The tongue bones were small and mobile, helping it manipulate food in its mouth. And like modern big cats, its front limbs were built for control, not weight, helping it pin down victims as it delivered lethal cuts. Carcharodontosaurus didn't need brute strength. It needed accuracy, and it had plenty. Studies of its teeth show micro scratches similar to those of modern predators that feed on fresh kills rather than carrion. That means it was an active hunter, not a scavenger. Its sharp sense of smell and possibly color vision made it a master of locating and ambushing prey. And with a stride capable of covering ground fast, even a small stumble from its victim meant death was seconds away. Some paleontologists think it may have hunted in pairs or small groups based on the distribution of fossils found in close proximity. This theory suggests a terrifying image: multiple 40-foot carnivores circling a herd of sauropods, coordinating their attacks through subtle movements and growls. Whether alone or in packs, the outcome was the same: silence broken by the sound of tearing flesh and snapping bones. Mapusaurus Roseae, the cooperative killer. A tomb full of the bones of not one, but several Mapusaurus Roseae was found in the hot plains of Patagonia. This discovery changed everything we thought we knew about how dinosaurs behaved. Each body belonged to a huge animal, some of which were over 12 meters long. For a long time, paleontologists didn't understand why they were all buried together. The answer was scary. These people weren't just victims of luck. They were part of a pack. Mapusaurus, meaning earth lizard, was a close relative of Giganotosaurus, and together they ruled South America during the late Cretaceous. But while Giganotosaurus was terrifying on its own, Mapusaurus took the concept of hunting to another level. The fossils, discovered in the Huincul Formation of Argentina, showed at least 7 individuals, ranging from juveniles to full-grown adults, preserved in the same layer of sediment. That evidence hinted at a level of social cooperation unheard of among giant predators, a team of apex killers working together. Picture a group of 40-foot-long, meat-eating beasts, each weighing as much as a bus, stalking the open floodplains. Smaller dinosaurs could be killed by them on their own. It was impossible for any one of them to kill the Argentinosaurus by itself, but together they were strong enough to do it. The catch was 35 meters long and weighed almost 70 tons, so it wasn't small, but Mapusaurus may have come up with a way to kill it, circle it, wear it out, and kill it. Some things can be learned from their teeth. Like those of the Carcharodontosaurus, their sides were sharpened and recurved so they could cut through tough meat. They had wide-opening teeth that could make long, deep cuts that lost a lot of blood. They didn't use raw force. Instead, they worked together and were very careful. One Mapusaurus could attack from the front, and another could attack from the side or back. This way, even the biggest omnivore would be worn down until it fell over. Paleontologists have also noticed interesting differences between individuals found in the same site. The younger ones were more lightly built, faster, more agile, while the older adults had heavier bones and stronger jaws. This variation might indicate roles within a pack. Juveniles could chase and corner prey, while adults delivered the killing blows. It's the same type of strategy used by modern lions or wolves. Proof that social hunting isn't a mammal invention, but a behavior that has evolved again and again. The land where they lived was hard but rich, with rivers, cycads and ferns dotting the semi-arid landscape. In the distance, huge sauropods stood out, and smaller hunters and scavengers followed them. Mapusaurus thought this was heaven, because it was full of slow, big prey. But there was a lot of competition. Nearby are belisaurids and crocodiliforms, two other types of animals. Prey Mapusaurus needed more than size to stay on top. It also needed to work together. Their skulls were long and narrow, with large fenestrae openings to reduce weight, allowing quick head movements during a fight. Their vision was forward-angled enough to judge depth, critical for ambush attacks. And while their bite force wasn't as strong as T-Rex, it didn't need to be. A single Mapusaurus slash could open a wound deep enough to kill slowly, bleeding prey over time. These predators weren't just hunters, they were strategists. The mass burial site, known as the Mapusaurus bone bed, also raises the question of how these animals died together. Some scientists suggest drought. The pack may have been following a drying riverbed when they all perished. Others propose disease or a flood. Whatever the cause, their collective death preserved a rare picture of life, or death, in motion. Multiple apex predators, bonded by circumstance or family, living and dying as one. Therizinosaurus Carolinii, the sloth with scythes. No other dinosaur looked as strange or scary as Therizinosaurus Carolinii. It lived in a world full of toothy hunters and armoured giants. Imagine a monster that is 5 meters tall, weighs more than 5 tons, has a pot-bellied body, long winged arms, and claws that are each as long as a sword. Now picture it turning toward you with its claws raised and shining like bent scythes in the sun. Even though it looked scary, Therizinosaurus didn't hunt. Instead, it ate plants, but the way it was made still made it look very dangerous. Discovered in the Gobi Desert of Mongolia in the 1940s, its first fossils were so strange that scientists thought they belonged to a giant turtle, hence the name Cheloniformis, meaning turtle-formed. Only later did they realize this turtle was actually a feathered dinosaur with claws up to 1 meter long. Even today, its appearance defies easy comparison. Part sloth, part ostrich, part nightmare. Unlike the sleek predators it lived alongside, Therizinosaurus had a wide, barrel-shaped body. This odd build helped it digest tough plants, supported by an enormous gut for fermenting vegetation. It moved slowly on 2 thick legs, balancing its long arms and massive claws. But don't be fooled by its diet. Those claws weren't harmless. They were deadly defensive weapons, capable of slashing open any predator foolish enough to attack. Its environment, the late Cretaceous plains of Mongolia, was dangerous territory. It shared its world with killers like Tarbosaurus Batar, Allosaurus, and packs of feathered dromaeosaurs. To survive among them, Therizinosaurus relied on intimidation. Fossil reconstruction show it could lift its arms above its head, flaring its feathers and swinging those claws in wide, sweeping arcs. One hit could slice through skin and muscle with ease. Even apex predators would think twice before challenging it. What makes Therizinosaurus so fascinating is how completely it broke the rules of its family tree. Its ancestors were small, fast carnivores, agile hunters, related to raptors. But over millions of years, evolution flipped the script. As food sources changed, some of these predators began eating plants. Their teeth flattened, their guts expanded, and their claws evolved from killing tools into multi-purpose appendages, perfect for pulling down branches, gathering leaves, or digging roots. In Therizinosaurus, this transformation reached its peak, a dinosaur built for peace, but still armed for war. Paleontologists now believe Therizinosaurus was covered in a coat of long, filament-like feathers. It wasn't fluffy like a bird, but shaggy, almost mammal-like. These feathers helped regulate temperature and may have been used in mating displays. Picture a towering feathered giant, its plumage shimmering in the heat haze as it grazed quietly among the ferns. From a distance, it might have seemed harmless until it stood upright and raised its claws like scythes ready to strike. For a dinosaur, its hands were some of the most complicated ever made. The claws were hollow, curved, and very light for how big they were. The way the bones were built says that they were also very bendable. Researchers who looked at how the muscles attached to the body found that Therizinosaurus had the power to pull its arms in very tightly. It was strong enough to drag down tree branches or defend itself against attackers with deadly swipes. And then there's its head, small compared to its body, with a narrow beak and tiny teeth. It likely nipped leaves from trees, much like a giant prehistoric sloth. Its sense of smell was weak, but its eyesight was excellent, helping it spot threats from far away. Combined with its size and weaponry, this made it nearly untouchable. Few predators dared to attack it twice. Therizinosaurus's dreadfulness comes from the way it manages to be both incredibly amiable and terrifying. It wasn't a killer, but it looked scarier than most animals that eat meat. Some of its huge claws were over 3 feet long. They weren't meant to tear meat, but to change the world around it. To that animal, though, even eating must have looked scary. Modern research has even suggested that Therizinosaurus may have used its claws in social or mating displays, swinging them to attract mates or establish dominance. If so, it means those weapons weren't just for survival, but communication, a reminder that evolution often takes strange detours to achieve balance. Deinonychus Antirropus, the intellect of a killer. Before Deinonychus Antirropus was found, dinosaurs were thought to be slow, sluggish animals. That was never the same after this finding. John Ostrom, a geologist, found Deinonychus in the Badlands of Montana in the 1960s. It was only 3 meters long and about the weight of a man, which was small compared to other beasts of its time, but it was fast, smart, and deadly. What made it dangerous was its single, terrible claw, which is how its name comes from. On each foot, Deinonychus carried a sickle-shaped claw about 13 centimeters long, curved like a razor-sharp hook. When it attacked, it lifted this claw off the ground and slashed downward in a stabbing motion. Fossil evidence shows deep puncture marks and gouges on the bones of its prey, proving that this claw wasn't for climbing or balance, it was for killing. But what made Deinonychus terrifying wasn't just its weaponry, it was its mind. Unlike most reptiles of its time, Deinonychus had a large brain relative to its body. Its skull reveals wide eye sockets and a forward-facing gaze, giving it binocular vision, perfect for judging distance. Its inner ear structure suggests it could keep its balance even during fast twisting movements, like a bird diving mid-flight. And its long, stiff tail acted as a counterbalance, helping it make lightning-quick turns. This wasn't a brute force predator. This was precision-engineered speed and coordination. Ostrom's studies of Deinonychus inspired one of the most important shifts in paleontology, the idea that dinosaurs were active, warm-blooded, and intelligent. Before Deinonychus, most scientists thought dinosaurs lumbered slowly through their environment. After it, they began to see them as dynamic hunters with complex behavior. It even directly inspired the creation of the raptors in Jurassic Park, though those movie monsters were modeled more closely on Deinonychus than on Velociraptor. Its fossils are often found alongside the bones of Tyrannosaurus, a medium-sized herbivore that could grow up to 4 meters long. The way these skeletons are arranged, multiple Deinonychus near a single Tyrannosaurus, suggests group hunting. Whether they truly cooperated or simply gathered at the same carcass afterward is still debated. But the evidence leans toward coordination-packed behavior in creatures with such speed and intellect would have made them devastatingly effective. When a Deinonychus attacked, it likely struck fast and low. It may have jumped onto its prey, using its claws to grip While slashing at the neck and flanks, studies of claw curvature and muscle attachment show it could cling like a bird of prey, using its arms and claws to hold down victims while biting repeatedly with serrated teeth. Once its prey was weakened, the group could move in, each taking turns to feed. Its body was built for agility. Long legs, lightweight bones and a narrow chest gave it a running speed estimated at 40 kilometers per hour. Its arms were flexible and muscular, with grasping hands that could close around prey. And like its smaller cousin Velociraptor, it was almost certainly covered in feathers, not the soft down of modern birds, but stiff, filament-like feathers that provided insulation and balance. Under sunlight, it might have looked more like a giant eagle than a reptile. Scientists can learn a lot about Deinonychus's behavior from studying its body, which makes it very interesting. The bigger brain hole, especially in the parts that control balance and eyesight, suggests that the animal could learn, plan, and change. Some people even think it might have talked to plan its hunts, like wolves or birds do today. With that much planning, it was one of the first animals on Earth that could really think. Carnotaurus Sastrei, the demon bull of Patagonia. Scientists couldn't believe what they saw when they first pulled its ancient bones out of the dry ground in Patagonia in 1984. The Carnotaurus Sastrei, a hunter with eyes that faced forward, horns on top of its head that looked like a bull's, and skin impressions that showed rows of bumps and scales, looked like something from a story. It really lives up to its name, which means meat-eating bull. Carnotaurus was sleek, powerful, and made to move quickly. It wasn't the most deadly Cretaceous killer, but it was one of the weirdest and scariest. At about 8 meters long and weighing close to 2 tons, Carnotaurus was smaller than the southern giants like Giganotosaurus or Mapusaurus. But it didn't need size to dominate. It was pure efficiency, a predator stripped down to its essentials. Its skull was tall but narrow, its neck thick with muscle, and its body lean like a sprinter's. Its legs were long and strong, built for running. In fact, biomechanical models suggest Carnotaurus could sprint at nearly 50 kilometers per hour, making it one of the fastest large theropods ever known. In the open plains of Cretaceous Argentina, nothing outran it for long. But what truly made it unique were its horns, short, sharp projections above its eyes, giving it a demonic look. These weren't just decorations. Scientists think Carnotaurus may have used them in combat, ramming or butting heads with rivals, much like modern bulls. The thick neck vertebrae and solid skull bones support this idea. They acted as shock absorbers, letting it strike without breaking its own face. Whether for dominance, mating, or defense, those horns were both a weapon and a warning. Its face tells another story. The snout was short and deep, and its jaws were lined with blade-like teeth, perfect for slicing through flesh. Unlike T-Rex, whose bite was crushed, Carnotaurus struck quickly and repeatedly, slashing and retreating. Its skull structure suggests an incredibly fast jaw snap, almost like a crocodile's. It could strike, tear, and reset for another attack in a heartbeat. That quick hit-and-run tactic made it lethal to medium-sized prey like ornithopods, agile plant eaters that roamed its territory. Even more bizarre were its arms, or rather, the lack of them. Carnotaurus had the smallest arms of any known large carnivorous dinosaur, even shorter than those of Tyrannosaurus Rex. They were so tiny that they couldn't reach its mouth or do much of anything at all. But that wasn't a flaw. Evolution had simply taken what it didn't need and stripped it away. Carnotaurus relied entirely on speed, vision, and jaws. Everything else was unnecessary weight. Speaking of vision, it was one of the few dinosaurs known to have forward-facing eyes, which means it had binocular vision, the ability to judge depth and distance, a skill vital for a predator that struck at high speed combine that with its excellent sense of smell. And you get a hunter that could detect movement from far away, then close in with surgical accuracy. When scientists recreated its possible hunting behavior with computer simulations, they found that its movement resembled that of a cheetah, fast, precise, and explosive. The discovery of preserved skin impressions around its fossil made Carnotaurus even more fascinating. Its body was covered not in feathers, but in pebbly scales with rows of large bumps running along its sides. These structures may have helped regulate temperature or store fat, but they also gave it a rough, armoured look. Under the sun of Cretaceous South America, it must have glistened like a reptilian war machine, dark, scarred, and built for pursuit. Paleontologists think that Carnotaurus attacked in open areas, chasing its food instead of waiting for it to come to it. It could keep going fast across the fields because its frame was light and its legs were long. The bite didn't have to go through bone, it only had to be deep enough to drain the blood. Its plan was to be quick, effective, and unwavering. Majungasaurus Crenatissimus, the cannibal king. During the late Cretaceous, there was a killer on the island of Madagascar that was so cruel that not even its own kind were safe. The Mahajanga lizard, Majungasaurus Crenatissimus, wasn't the biggest or fastest meat-eating animal, but it was one of the most dangerous. Fossils don't just show that it killed its food, it shows that it ate other animals of the same kind. Paleontologists have found bite marks on Majungasaurus bones. It wasn't foraging gone wrong, it was just plain eating. At about 6 to 7 meters long and weighing close to a ton, Majungasaurus wasn't massive like T-Rex or Giganotosaurus, but what it lacked in size, it made up for in ferocity. It ruled an isolated ecosystem where food was scarce and competition was fierce. Madagascar during the late Cretaceous was separated from Africa and India, creating a miniature world where evolution took strange turns. Majungasaurus became the undisputed apex predator of that world, and in such isolation, it turned its hunger on anything, even its own kind. Its skull tells the story of a weapon built for dominance. Short and deep, it gave the animal a powerful bite, focused on grip rather than slicing. Its teeth were thick and robust, ideal for crushing through bone. Unlike the blade-like teeth of Carcharodontosaurus, Majungasaurus's teeth worked more like serrated pliers, designed to crush and twist. It could latch onto prey and hold on, grinding through muscle and cartilage. When it attacked, it likely went for the neck or spine, ending the fight in one brutal motion. It looked threatening because of the way its head was shaped. It had a single bony horn on its forehead, which it might have worn for show or to scare off possible mates and enemies. Its eyes were looking forward, which helped it see far away. That wasn't common among dinosaurs, and it points to a hunter that needed to be accurate up close, the kind that hunts by itself and kills quickly. Its body was thick and muscular, with a powerful tail that helped it pivot quickly, but its arms were tiny, even smaller than those of T-Rex. They weren't used for hunting. Its jaws and legs did all the work. Every muscle in its frame was tuned for short bursts of power, making it a deadly ambush predator. It didn't chase prey for long distances. It struck from cover, locking its jaws and refusing to let go. The world it lived in was hot, seasonal, and harsh. Floodplains turned to mud during the rainy season and cracked dry under the sun. Large herbivores like Rapatosaurus, long-necked titanosaurs, shared the same land, grazing in herds. These were likely Majungasaurus's primary targets, but when droughts came or prey became scarce, it turned on its own. Fossil evidence from multiple sites shows bite marks that perfectly match Majungasaurus teeth on other Majungasaurus bones, including skulls and limbs. No other predator left such a consistent record of feeding on itself. Why did it do this? Most likely, survival. In isolated ecosystems, cannibalism often becomes a brutal necessity. Modern Komodo dragons and crocodiles show similar behavior. They eat their own kind to eliminate rivals and reclaim nutrients from carcasses. Majungasaurus wasn't evil, it was efficient. In a land where every calorie mattered, the dead became just another meal. While it was very dangerous, this hunter was also very good at specializing. CT scans of its brain case show that it has a well-developed balance system, which means it could stay steady while fighting food. The shape of its inner ear suggests that it moves its head quickly and easily, like when it shakes or twists flesh free, and muscle ligaments on its jaw show that it can close very hard. It didn't let go after it bit. Allosaurus Fragilis, the Jurassic apex. Before Tyrannosaurus Rex ruled the late Cretaceous, Allosaurus Fragilis, the fragile different lizard, ruled Earth's earlier stage. It lived 80 million years before T-Rex in the late Jurassic. For almost 10 million years, it was the only animal at the top of the food chain. Of all the animals in its world, it wasn't the biggest or the fastest, but it was smart, well coordinated, and had jaws that were made for tearing through giant's meat. At up to 9 meters long and weighing around 2 tons, Allosaurus was built like a living weapon. Its head was narrow and lined with nearly 70 sharp, serrated teeth, each curved backward like a steak knife. But its bite wasn't designed to crush bones. Instead, it used a technique scientists now call the hatchet bite. By using the muscles in its neck and back, Allosaurus could swing its skull downward like an axe, slicing deep wounds with each blow. It didn't need to bite down hard. Gravity and momentum did the killing. That hunting style worked perfectly against the prey of its time. Jurassic World was filled with enormous plant eaters like Stegosaurus, Apatosaurus, and Camarasaurus fossil evidence from Utah and Colorado shows bite marks from Allosaurus teeth embedded in the bones of these creatures, sometimes showing signs of healing, proof that they were attacked while alive and survived long enough to recover. The strategy was brutal but efficient. Wear the prey down with repeated slashes, then wait for it to collapse from blood loss or exhaustion. Its arms were surprisingly powerful for a predator of its size. Each was equipped with 3 large claws, perfect for gripping or holding prey. Combined with its flexible neck, this allowed Allosaurus to anchor its victim while tearing away flesh with its jaws. Its tail, long and muscular, acted as a counterbalance, keeping its body stable during attacks. And unlike T-Rex, which likely hunted alone, fossil evidence suggests Allosaurus may have hunted in groups. Sites with multiple individuals around a single large carcass hint at cooperative feeding, or perhaps a chaotic mob scene where competition turned to violence. The fossil record paints Allosaurus as the undisputed top predator of North America's Morrison Formation, an ancient landscape of floodplains, conifer forests, and fern fields. But it wasn't just dominant, it was versatile. It could chase down smaller prey, ambush larger ones, and even scavenge when needed. Its long legs and light skeleton made it faster than most large herbivores, allowing it to pursue wounded or young individuals easily. A partly healed Allosaurus skull with bite marks from another Allosaurus is one of the most remarkable things that was found. This makes it seem like these animals fought a lot, maybe over food, mates, or territory. Their fights would have been fierce, with 2 7-ton predators slashing and ramming each other with their open mouths. The sound would have echoed across the fields. Still, many of them lived through their injuries, showing that this kind of violence was normal for them. Paleontologists have studied its eye sockets and discovered that Allosaurus could move its eyes slightly forward, giving it limited binocular vision, rare for a Jurassic predator. This meant it could judge distance better than most of its prey, helping it strike precisely. The large crest above each eye wasn't just for display. It protected its eyes from blows during fights or while feeding. Baryonyx Walkeri, the fish eater with hooks for hands. There was a dangerous animal in the early Cretaceous English river bottoms that didn't hunt on land like most of its kind. It liked water better. Baryonyx Walkeri, whose name means heavy claw, was one of the strangest and most specialized meat-eating dinosaurs ever found. It had a crocodile-like nose, teeth in the shape of cones, and huge claws that were almost a foot long. It was perfectly designed to catch fish, a fisherman in a world full of hunters. Do not be fooled though. If something else came too close to where Baryonyx ate, it could use that fishing gear as a weapon. The story of Baryonyx began in 1983 when an amateur fossil hunter named William Walker discovered a giant claw jutting out of a clay pit in Surrey, England. At first, scientists thought it might belong to a predator like Irritator or Spinosaurus, but the rest of the skeleton revealed something new. This dinosaur combined features of both land and water predators. A long snout filled with over 90 teeth, strong forelimbs, and a sleek, low body made for wading. At about 10 meters long and weighing over 2 tons, Baryonyx wasn't the biggest killer of its time, but it was one of the most unique. Its skull was narrow and elongated, similar to a crocodile's, and its nostrils sat high on its snout, allowing it to breathe while partly submerged. Inside its jaws, the teeth were smooth and conical, not serrated like most meat-eaters. That meant they weren't designed for tearing. They were made for gripping slippery prey, like fish fossils even show fish scales and bones inside its rib cage, clear evidence of its aquatic diet. But Baryonyx wasn't limited to fishing. Its claws, huge, curved and razor-sharp, were among the largest ever found on a theropod. Each one measured nearly 30 centimeters and could slice through flesh with ease. Scientists believe Baryonyx used these claws to hook fish from the water or drag them to shore, much like a bear swiping at salmon. But they could also be used to defend itself or kill land animals when the opportunity arose. One fossil shows Baryonyx feeding on a juvenile iguanodon, a herbivore that must have wandered too close to the riverbank. Its body was built for both swimming and walking. Strong hind legs gave it stability on land, while its long, muscular tail may have acted as a rudder underwater. Its bones were denser than most theropods, helping it stay partially submerged rather than floating, an adaptation seen in modern hippos and crocodiles. This dual lifestyle made Baryonyx one of the earliest known semi-aquatic dinosaurs, millions of years before its cousin Spinosaurus perfected the role. Its environment was a humid, tropical delta where rivers wound through thick forests and mudflats. Crocodiles, turtles and fish filled the waterways, while giant herbivores grazed on the banks. In that setting, Baryonyx thrived. It could slip silently into the shallows, wait motionless with its snout just above the surface, and then strike with lightning speed. Fossilized snouts show small sensory pits, like the pressure sensors in modern crocodiles, suggesting it could detect ripples made by nearby fish. Despite its long jaws, Baryonyx wasn't slow. Studies of its neck muscles show that it could snap its head sideways quickly, like a heron catching a fish. Once caught, the prey had no chance. The jaws would clamp down, and those conical teeth would hold it tight until it stopped moving. With a flick of its head, Baryonyx could toss the fish down its throat whole. It also had a flexible wrist joint, a rare feature among dinosaurs, allowing it to rotate its hands in a way most predators couldn't. This adaptation gave it greater control when handling prey. Combine that with its enormous claws, and you get a predator that could fish, slash and grab with equal skill. The most intriguing part about Baryonyx is how it changed the way we think about how dinosaurs behave. Before it was found, not many experts thought that big theropods hunted fish. This showed that dinosaurs weren't just living on land, they were also traveling and adjusting to every new situation. Animals that lived in rivers all the time, like Spinosaurus Aegyptiacus, evolved along the same lines that led Baryonyx to rivers. Torvosaurus Gurneyi, the Portuguese titan. Before the seas and continents split Europe into different parts, it was a mix of lush floodplains and fern woods that were full of life and death. Torvosaurus Gurneyi was one of the most dangerous animals in this area. It was the biggest land animal that has ever been found on the continent. It was Europe's answer to the T-Rex. It was more than 10 meters long and weighed almost 5 tons. It was a hunter from a different time that depended on brute strength, patience, and a jaw full of sharp teeth. Torvosaurus was first discovered in Portugal's Lourinhã Formation, a Jurassic treasure trove of fossils that once bordered a vast tropical sea. It lived about 150 million years ago, when Europe was a series of islands, and it hunted in coastal floodplains filled with sauropods, stegosaurs, and smaller carnivores. Its name means savage lizard, and few dinosaurs have ever earned it more. Its skull was more than a meter long, with deep, powerful jaws packed with teeth up to 10 centimeters each, long, recurved and serrated like kitchen knives. Every bite from Torvosaurus could slice through skin and muscle like butter. Unlike T-Rex, which used bone-crushing power, Torvosaurus relied on repeated cutting strikes. Once it bit into its prey, it would shake its head violently, tearing huge chunks of flesh loose. The wounds alone would often kill its victim long before it could escape. Its body was muscular and robust, with massive leg bones that suggest it was a steady walker rather than a fast sprinter. That didn't make it slow. It simply conserved energy, stalking its prey across long distances until the right moment to strike. With each step, its heavy claws dug into the mud, leaving footprints that have survived to this day across the Portuguese cliffs. Some of these trackways stretch for meters, showing the stride of a confident, dominant predator patrolling its territory. But what truly sets Torvosaurus apart is how it bridges two eras. It lived near the end of the Jurassic, just before the rise of the colossal Cretaceous predators. In many ways, it was the prototype, the evolutionary blueprint for giants like Giganotosaurus and Tyrannosaurus. Its skull combined the long, narrow snout of earlier predators like Allosaurus, with the sheer bulk and bite power that would define later apex hunters. It was evolution mid-transformation, still primitive in some ways, but already hinting at what was to come. The environment it ruled was dangerous and competitive. Torvosaurus shared its world with other predators like Allosaurus europaeus and Ceratosaurus, but it was clearly the top-of-the-chain fossils of large herbivores like Lorinosaurus show deep gouges and tooth marks perfectly matching Torvosaurus's teeth, evidence that it fed on the biggest prey available. It likely hunted juvenile sauropods and injured adults, striking from ambush when they wandered too close to rivers or open clearings. But Torvosaurus wasn't just a hunter, it was a survivor in a volatile landscape. The late Jurassic was a time of changing climates, with shifting rivers and frequent floods. Its fossils are often found in floodplain sediments, suggesting that many individuals died in sudden natural disasters. Yet their abundance also hints that these predators were common and successful, thriving across what is now Portugal, Spain, and possibly even North America, where a close relative, Torvosaurus tanneri, has been found. Paleontologists' ideas about European dinosaurs changed when they found Torvosaurus Gurneyi. Scientists thought for many years that Europe's ancient animals were smaller, separate offshoots of bigger species that lived in other places. Then this huge animal showed up, showing that Europe had a top hunter just as scary as the giants in Africa or America. Cryolophosaurus elioti, the Antarctic killer. Under the midnight sun, there used to be a killer who lived in a place we now think of as frozen and quiet. It was called the frozen crested lizard and lived in the cold woods of what is now Antarctica, about 190 million years ago. It was one of the weirdest killers of its time. It was beautiful and dangerous, and its fancy crest earned it the name Allosaurus. Don't get it wrong though, this dinosaur wasn't just stylish, it was one of the first top predators to live on the southernmost land of Earth. When paleontologists unearthed its bones in 1991 from Mount Kirkpatrick near the South Pole, they were stunned. Nobody expected to find a large theropod dinosaur buried under Antarctic ice. The fossils were preserved in rock that formed when Antarctica was part of the supercontinent Gondwana, a land that, back then, wasn't the icy desert we know today. It was a cool, forested world filled with conifers, moss, and ferns. Snow fell in winter, but there were also long, bright summers. And through that land moved Cryolophosaurus, the top predator of its ecosystem. At about 6.5 meters long and weighing close to half a ton, it wasn't the biggest carnivore in history, but it was one of the most unique. Its skull was narrow and long, with teeth shaped like steak knives, sharp enough to cut through flesh and muscle with ease. Each tooth had fine serrations for slicing, and its bite could shear cleanly through bone. It had strong legs for running and a long, counterbalancing tail that let it chase down prey across uneven terrain. But what set Cryolophosaurus apart was the crest, a broad, wavy ridge of bone running across the top of its head. Curling upward like a pompadour, scientists still debate its purpose. It was too fragile for combat, so it was likely used for display, to attract mates or assert dominance, much like peacocks or modern birds of paradise. Its bright colour, if it had one, would have stood out against the green and grey forests of Jurassic Antarctica, a visible sign of health and strength. Its discovery was groundbreaking because it showed how early theropods adapted to extreme environments. Antarctica in the early Jurassic wasn't frozen solid, but it still experienced months of darkness and cold temperatures. To survive, Cryolophosaurus likely had a warm-blooded metabolism, meaning it could generate its own body heat. Its bones show signs of rapid growth, similar to modern birds and mammals, evidence that it was active, fast, and capable of surviving in fluctuating climates. What did it hunt? Fossils from the same region reveal a rich ecosystem: primitive herbivorous dinosaurs like Glacialosaurus, early reptiles, and amphibians. Cryolophosaurus was the apex predator of this world, stalking prey through snow-dusted ferns and shadowy forests. Its long legs suggest it was a pursuit hunter, capable of short bursts of speed. Once it caught up, it would grab its prey with its jaws and deliver slashing bites with surgical accuracy. Then there's the question of how it died. The bones found at Mount Kirkpatrick were broken up and spread out, which suggests the animal died near a river and washed away by floodwaters. It was kept for almost 200 million years by the frozen landscape, which buried its remains under layers of silt and then ice. When it finally came back to the surface, it was the first clear sign that dinosaurs had taken over the whole world, even the poles. Rajasaurus Narmadensis, the horned predator of India. There was a horned killer that ruled the hot, river-filled valleys of late Cretaceous India. It was called Rajasaurus Narmadensis, which means the royal lizard from the Narmada. It wasn't the world's biggest hunter, but it was one of the most recognizable. It was a carnivore with a short, thick neck and a single, blunt horn on its brow. Its jaws were made to crush things. Around 70 million years ago, India was an island continent moving north across the ocean, and Rajasaurus was without a doubt its king. When paleontologists discovered its remains in the 1980s along the banks of the Narmada River, they found only fragments, pieces of skull, vertebrae, and limb bones. But in 2003, researchers from India's Geological Survey finally assembled enough to reconstruct the creature's true form. The results stunned the scientific world. Rajasaurus belonged to a rare group of dinosaurs called abelisaurids, relatives of Carnotaurus and Majungasaurus. These predators had evolved a completely different approach to killing. Short faces, deep skulls, and thick, muscular necks built for head-on collisions. At around 7 meters long and 2 tons in weight, Rajasaurus wasn't a giant by theropod standards, but its build was compact and powerful. Its skull was reinforced like a battering ram. Unlike the long, slicing jaws of Allosaurus or Carcharodontosaurus, its snout was short and deep, allowing it to deliver fast, high-force bites. The teeth were stout and serrated, capable of chewing through flesh and even bone. And then there was its horn, a low, rounded projection on top of its head. It wasn't sharp like a spear, but solid, covered in thick keratin. Scientists believe it was used in headbutting or shoving contests with rivals, much like goats or bison do today. But Rajasaurus didn't just fight its own kind. It fought for survival on a continent that was both isolated and extreme. By the time it lived, India had already split from Madagascar and was drifting toward Asia. This separation created a unique ecosystem found nowhere else on Earth. Rajasaurus ruled over herds of long-necked titanosaurs like Isosaurus and Deinonychus, as well as smaller dinosaurs and ancient crocodiles. It was an ambush hunter, using the cover of riverbanks and dense vegetation to get close before striking with explosive bursts of speed. Its anatomy suggests that once Rajasaurus latched onto prey, it used brute strength rather than finesse. The powerful neck muscles, anchored to thick cervical vertebrae, allowed it to pull back with tremendous force, ripping open wounds or snapping bones. The head and neck worked like a mechanical lever, designed to tear rather than slice. Fossilized muscle scars on its skull show just how much stress those bites generated. The arms of Rajasaurus were very short, even shorter than those of T-Rex and other abelisaurids. They didn't do much, which suggests that its teeth and head did all the killing. But the legs were made to be stable, not fast, so it was more of a sprinter than a long-distance runner. It probably worked by surprising people by hitting from close range and using sheer strength to beat them. It would hold its prey animal with its teeth and give it quick, jerky pulls until the body stopped moving. The discovery of Rajasaurus also revealed how isolated evolution can produce unique predators. While Carnotaurus in South America evolved horns and speed, and Majungasaurus in Madagascar became a cannibal, Rajasaurus developed compact strength and an armoured skull, all adaptations to a confined, competitive island environment. It was proof that even continents adrift could breed monsters. Scientists are still delighted at how well Rajasaurus adapted to the semi-arid climate of India. Geological evidence shows that the area had regular floods that went back and forth between wet, muggy marshes and dry, dusty plains. Rajasaurus probably scavenged as much as it killed during droughts, when bodies would pile up along riverbeds. It could break through bone and dried meat easily because its teeth were tough and its bite was strong. This was an important survival skill in a hard climate. Tarbosaurus Batar, the Mongolian tyrant. In Mongolia in the late Cretaceous, there was a ruler that was just as scary as a Tyrannosaurus Rex. It lived in windy deserts. It was called Tarbosaurus Batar, which means the scary lizard hero. It lived about 70 million years ago, around the same time as T-Rex, but on the other side of the world. In the Nemegt environment, Tyrannosaurus was king of North America, and Tarbosaurus was king of Asia's floodplains. It stalked through sand dunes and river deltas as the undisputed king. At first glance, Tarbosaurus looked almost identical to its American cousin. A massive skull, short arms, muscular legs, and a long, counterbalancing tail. But subtle differences reveal how evolution fine-tuned it for its own world. It was slightly slimmer and more agile, growing up to 12 meters long and weighing around 5 tons. Its skull was narrower and its snout longer, giving it a more crocodile-like profile. This design made its bite faster and more precise, ideal for gripping smaller, moving prey in the open landscapes of Asia. Its teeth, however, left no doubt about its power. Each one was thick and serrated, built to crush through bone and muscle alike. With a bite force likely exceeding 6 tons, Tarbosaurus could turn a ribcage into dust in seconds. The skull's construction, deep and reinforced, suggests a feeding style almost identical to T-Rex: bite, twist, and tear. Fossils of prey animals like Saurolophus, a duck-billed dinosaur, and Nemegtosaurus, a long-necked sauropod, bear unmistakable puncture marks from its jaws. But Tarbosaurus's most fascinating feature was its neck and jaw structure. CT scans and digital reconstruction show that it had exceptionally strong neck muscles, allowing it to shake or pull its prey violently side to side, the same technique used by modern crocodiles. Its lower jaw could flex slightly, helping absorb the shock of biting into large, struggling animals. This flexibility gave it a deadly advantage. It could attack prey much larger than itself without breaking its own bones. The environment it ruled was harsh but rich in life. The Nemegt Basin of Mongolia, now a barren desert, was once a lush river plain with forests, swamps, and lagoons. Massive herbivores like Saurolophus, Therizinosaurus, and Nemegtosaurus provided endless food, while smaller predators like Allosaurus, a distant relative of Tarbosaurus, stayed far out of its way. Fossil trackways suggest that Tarbosaurus hunted alone, relying on stealth and sudden bursts of speed rather than teamwork. The creepiest thing that was found might be inside its own bodies. There are fossils of Tarbosaurus that have the bones of smaller dinosaurs inside their rib cages. These are the stomach contents of the smaller dinosaurs that have been preserved in stone. One example had bones from a young Nemegtosaurus stuck between its ribs, which shows that it ate other young sauropods. The hunter scared people of all ages and species because it preyed on everything from babies to giants. But Tarbosaurus wasn't just a brute. Its brain case reveals well-developed regions for smell and vision, suggesting sharp senses and possibly keen awareness of its surroundings. The olfactory bulbs, the parts of the brain that process scent, were huge, rivaling those of bloodhounds. This predator could smell food from kilometers away, detecting even faint traces of decay carried by the wind across the plains. This valley was formed 70 million years ago, and it would be very quiet there now. Hadrosaurs would graze in the distance as dust storms swept across the land. After a while, a huge, quiet shadow would move. Tarbosaurus would come into view, testing the air with its head bobbing a little. It would narrow its yellow eyes and take one slow, calculated step toward the animal. With every step, the ground would shake. It would lunge at you in seconds, its jaws wide open like a live guillotine made of bone and muscle. Australovenator wintonensis, the lightning claw. In the middle of ancient Australia, where rivers ran through wet woods and huge titanosaurs walked across the floodplains, a dangerous animal waited. It was quick, quiet, and had claws that could cut through bone. This is Australovenator wintonensis, also known as the southern hunter. Scientists have come up with a better name for it, the lightning claw. At the middle of the Cretaceous, it was Australia's most dangerous animal. It was sleek, quick, and very good at what it did. Discovered in 2006 near the town of Winton, Queensland, Australovenator changed everything paleontologists thought they knew about Australia's dinosaurs. Before its discovery, few large predators were known from the continent. The fossils were found alongside the remains of a massive plant eater called Deinonychus, suggesting a brutal scene. The hunter and its last meal buried together by a sudden flood. When scientists cleaned the bones, they realized they had uncovered something unique, a predator unlike any other in the southern hemisphere. At around 6 meters long and weighing roughly 500 kilograms, Australovenator wasn't a giant like T-Rex or Allosaurus, but it didn't need to be. It was built like a cheetah, lightweight, flexible, and devastatingly quick. Its long legs, narrow hips, and streamlined body show that it could sprint after prey across open ground. But its true weapons were its arms. Unlike most large carnivorous dinosaurs, Australovenator had exceptionally long, muscular forelimbs equipped with massive claws, some nearly 25 centimeters long, curved like scimitars. Each one could open a deep wound with a single swipe. These claws gave it its nickname, Lightning Claw, and they weren't just for slashing. Computer reconstruction suggests Australovenator could flex its wrists inward, a rare ability among dinosaurs, allowing it to grab prey much like a bird of prey does today. Once it caught its target, it could pull it close, delivering repeated bites and strikes until the animal collapsed. This motion, powerful and precise, made it one of the most advanced hunters of its era. Its skull was narrow and aerodynamic, with forward-facing eyes for depth perception. The jaws were lined with finely serrated teeth, perfect for cutting through meat rather than crushing it. Each bite left clean, slicing marks similar to those found on fossils of smaller herbivores discovered in the same region. These marks tell us that Australovenator hunted actively, not just scavenged. It preferred fresh kills, fast chases, ambush attacks, and quick kills. Paleontologists have compared it to a mix between a raptor and Allosaurus, and that description fits perfectly. It shared the speed and agility of smaller dromaeosaurs, but packed the strength of a mid-sized apex predator. Its skeleton even shows adaptations for crouching low, possibly allowing it to hide in vegetation before launching surprise attacks, a rare trait among large theropods. The environment it lived in, around 95 million years ago, was part of the Great Inland Sea that once divided Australia. The land was hot, swampy, and full of life. Sauropods, small ornithopods, turtles, and crocodile-like reptiles. Australovenator thrived here as a generalist predator, capable of taking down large prey or scavenging when necessary. Its speed meant that nothing smaller than a human could escape it for long. Recent studies using 3D scans of its claws and arms revealed just how advanced it was. Its joints allowed greater rotation and range of motion than almost any other known theropod. This meant it could manipulate its prey with fine control, holding, slashing, or even pinning it before striking with its jaws. In a world where most predators relied purely on bite power, Australovenator fought like a coordinated, intelligent killer. Tracks and fossilised footprints found across Queensland may even belong to this species. They show a running gait, with impressions suggesting that it could move with both power and grace. It didn't charge clumsily, it sprinted with precision, using its tail for balance and its claws for control. Every movement had purpose. The place where the Australovenator fits in the genetic tree is what makes it so interesting. This animal is a megaraptorid, which is a group of hunters known for their huge claws and tiny bodies. Before the time of the giant tyrannosaurs, these were the last skilled hunts. They were quick, accurate, and dangerous. It shows that evolution created its own version of the perfect hunter, even when it was far away from the big land masses of the north. If you could walk through the forests of prehistoric Winton, you might first hear the splash of water, then silence. A shadow would dart between the ferns, too fast to follow. The air would hum with tension before a blur of motion broke the stillness, claws flashing, jaws snapping, leaves scattering. Within seconds, it would be over. The prey down, the lightning claw standing tall, feathers bristling, breath rising in the humid air. Dakotaraptor Steinii, the feathered terror of Hell Creek. In the last days of the dinosaur era, when the world was on the verge of destruction, one last predator showed up. It was fast, smart, and beautiful, and it had wings. It lived 66 million years ago in what is now South Dakota. Its name was Dakotaraptor Steinii. It wasn't a huge dinosaur like T-Rex, but it was just as scary in its own way. It was a raptor that was almost human-sized, had sharp claws, wings for balance, and was smart like a pack hunter. Discovered in 2015 in the famous Hell Creek Formation, Dakotaraptor was a game-changer. Until then, scientists thought large raptors had vanished long before the end of the Cretaceous. But this creature proved they were still there, bigger, faster, and more bird-like than ever. At over 5 meters long and weighing close to 300 kilograms, it was one of the largest raptors ever found, second only to Utahraptor. Unlike smaller raptors like Velociraptor, which barely reached the size of a turkey, Dakotaraptor was a predator that could look an adult human straight in the eye. Its most iconic weapon was the massive, sickle-shaped claw on each foot, more than 24 centimeters long and curved like a knife. When it attacked, it lifted this claw off the ground, keeping it razor-sharp. During a strike, it could drive the claw into its prey's flesh with a force strong enough to pierce bone. The shape of the claw and the strength of the leg muscles suggest it used a grapple and slash technique, leaping onto its target, pinning it with its weight, and slashing repeatedly until it bled out. But Dakotaraptor wasn't just built for killing, it was built for speed and maneuverability. Its legs were long and muscular, and its lower bones were thin and lightweight. An adaptation for running, it could likely sprint across open plains faster than any human, using bursts of acceleration to close in on prey before it could escape. And once it was close, those long feathered arms came into play. Yes, the Dakotaraptor did have wings. Its wrists have quill knobs, which are small bumps where feathers used to be attached. Just like in birds today, it wasn't able to fly, but its wings helped it stay balanced and in control during battle. The feathers helped keep its body stable while it jumped, so it could change its attack in real time. It may have also used its wings to hide food while it ate, or to show enemies who was boss, which is something modern birds of prey do. Its head was long and narrow, lined with serrated teeth that could slice through flesh like a serrated blade. Forward-facing eyes gave it depth perception, crucial for judging distance during a hunt. Its brain cavity reveals it had a relatively large brain for its size, meaning it was alert, calculating, and possibly capable of complex behavior, such as hunting in pairs or small groups. The world it lived in was full of danger and opportunity. The Hell Creek ecosystem was one of the richest on Earth, home to Triceratops, Ankylosaurus, Pachycephalosaurus, and of course, Tyrannosaurus Rex. But Dakotaraptor filled a niche that even the tyrant couldn't: speed and precision. While T-Rex crushed bones with brute force, Dakotaraptor sliced through soft targets with surgical efficiency. It likely hunted smaller herbivores like the Allosaurus or juvenile dinosaurs, striking from cover or ambushing them in the open. Its skeleton also tells us something about its agility. The tail was long and stiffened by bony rods, giving it incredible balance. While running or turning, it could pivot sharply, leap high, and land without stumbling. Traits essential for a predator that relied on timing rather than sheer power, combined with feathers for stability and claws for grip. Dakotaraptor was an athlete among dinosaurs, a creature that moved like a hawk but hit like a lion. And then there's the question of why it went extinct. It lived until the very end of the Cretaceous period, when it shared its world with the last of the big dinosaurs. It's likely that the rock that hit 66 million years ago died in the chaos that followed, with firestorms, darkness, and hunger. But in a way, it was never really gone. The Mesozoic winged hunters that came from it are the ancestors of birds that fly today. Every hawk, eagle, and falcon is a live record of what it used to be. They ruled for over 160 million years, and when they finally vanished, the earth fell silent. But their bones still whisper stories of power, fear, and survival written in stone. Every claw, every tooth, every fossil reminds us that nature once built creatures beyond imagination, and that in some ways, it never stopped. If you enjoyed this journey through Earth's most terrifying predators, hit like, subscribe, and stay tuned, because the next discovery might reveal a monster even deadlier than we've ever dreamed.